Egyptian mythology was far more than a collection of strange stories about animal-headed gods and magical journeys. For the ancient Egyptians, myth was a way of describing how the world worked. It explained the rising sun, the flooding Nile, the power of kings, the meaning of death, and the constant struggle to keep life from collapsing into disorder. These myths appeared across Egyptian culture in hymns, ritual texts, funerary writings, temple decoration, tomb art, amulets, and short stories. But they were rarely written as complete narratives from beginning to end. Instead, Egyptians preserved fragments, symbols, scenes, and variations. That matters because Egyptian mythology was not a single fixed book of doctrine. It was a sacred language for interpreting reality. A key to understanding Egyptian mythology is the Egyptian view of time. They saw the present world as a series of repeating cycles. The sun rose, set, and rose again. The Nile flooded and retreated. Crops grew, died, and returned. Human life followed patterns of birth, death, burial, and hoped for renewal. But myths belong to the earliest age, when the gods first shaped existence. These first events created the pattern that later reality repeated. A ritual in a temple was therefore not just symbolic theater. It renewed the original order of creation. A king defending Egypt was not only performing politics. He was repeating the divine act of protecting the world from chaos. At the heart of this worldview was maat. Maat is often translated as truth, justice, balance, harmony, or order, but it was bigger than any one of those words. Maat was the correct structure of the universe. It meant that the sun followed its path, society had moral order, the gods received offerings, the dead could be judged, and life remained possible. Egyptian myths repeatedly show maat under threat. Disorder could appear as darkness, violence, desert danger, foreign invasion, disease, storms, or rebellious divine forces. Maintaining maat was not automatic. It required gods, kings, priests, rituals, and ethical behavior. The universe was stable only because order was constantly defended. Creation myths express this idea in its most basic form. Many Egyptian creation stories begin with a formless, watery chaos before the ordered world existed. This was not emptiness, but raw potential, dark, undefined, unstructured, and dangerous. From it, a first creative force emerged. In different traditions, different gods could play this role, and each version emphasized a different sacred truth. Land might rise like a mound from primeval waters. Light might appear. Gods might be generated. Names, forms, and boundaries might separate one thing from another. The point was not to give a modern scientific account. The point was to show that existence itself depended on transforming chaos into structure. This is why Egyptian myths can seem contradictory. One city might honor one creator god, while another tradition gave creation to a different deity. One text might describe creation through birth, another through speech, another through emergence from water. To a modern reader, this can look like confusion. But Egyptian mythology was deeply metaphorical. A god was not merely a character in a story. A god represented a divine force, a pattern in nature, or a way of understanding sacred reality. Different versions did not necessarily cancel each other out. They offered different symbolic angles. Egyptian religion allowed myth to be layered, flexible, and locally meaningful while still pointing toward shared cosmic concerns. The sun god Ra became one of the clearest images of cosmic order. Every day, Ra traveled across the sky, bringing light, warmth, and visibility to the world. But this daily journey was also a mythic drama. Sunset did not mean the story ended. At night, Ra entered the Duat, the mysterious otherworld associated with death, danger, hidden powers, and transformation. There he had to pass through darkness and confront the forces that wanted to stop the sun from returning. Each dawn was, therefore, not just morning. It was victory. The sunrise proved that the cosmic order had survived another night and that life had been renewed again. Ra's journey through the Duat also shaped Egyptian ideas about death. The sun seemed to disappear each evening, pass through an unseen realm, and return alive. That pattern offered a powerful model for human hopes after death. Death was dangerous, but it could become a passage toward transformation. Funerary texts gave the dead knowledge, names, spells, and ritual support to navigate the otherworld. Tombs, mummification, offerings, and protective images were not simply customs. They helped align the deceased with divine cycles of regeneration. To live again after death, a person needed to join the same cosmic pattern that carried the sun from darkness back into light. The Osiris myth developed the same theme through a different divine story. Osiris was linked with kingship, fertility, and life beyond death. His brother Set represented disruptive force, violence, desert power, and disorder. In the myth, Set murders Osiris, breaking the rightful order and throwing the divine world into crisis. But the story does not end with destruction. Isis, the wife and sister of Osiris, searches, mourns, protects, and uses magical power to restore him enough for continuity to survive. Osiris does not simply return to ordinary life. Instead, he becomes ruler of the dead. Death is not erased. It is reorganized into sacred authority. The child of Osiris and Isis, Horus, carries the conflict forward. Horus challenges Set for the inheritance of Osiris, and their struggle becomes one of the great images of legitimate order fighting disruption. This was not only a divine family dispute. It explained kingship itself. The living pharaoh could be associated with Horus, while the dead king could be associated with Osiris. In this way, mythology gave political rule a cosmic foundation. The king was not simply an administrator or military leader. He was the earthly figure responsible for maintaining maat. His victories, rituals, building projects, and offerings were imagined as part of the universe's ongoing defense. Set shows the complexity of Egyptian mythology. He is often the disruptive god, the murderer of Osiris, and the rival of Horus. Yet he was not always treated as a simple devil figure. Set could also embody strength, storms, desert energy, and dangerous power that might sometimes be useful. This complexity reflects the Egyptian habit of thinking symbolically rather than morally, flattening every god into good or evil. A force could be threatening in one context and protective in another. The desert could endanger civilization, but it also marked boundaries. Violence could destroy order, but strength could defend it. Egyptian gods often held these tensions inside them. Because myth expressed sacred patterns, it deeply shaped Egyptian art and ritual. Temple walls did not merely decorate buildings. They displayed the ordered relationship between gods, kings, and the cosmos. A carved scene of the pharaoh offering to a deity showed maat being maintained. Tomb paintings connected the dead with divine protection and renewal. Amulets carried mythic power onto the body. Rituals fed the gods, protected Ra's journey, renewed creation, and supported the dead in the afterlife. Even literature could adapt myth for humor, allegory, or storytelling. Egyptian mythology was not locked inside priestly texts. It moved through architecture, politics, burial, personal devotion, and everyday symbols. The power of Egyptian mythology lies in its central drama. Order is created, threatened, broken, restored, and renewed. The world rises from chaos. Ra enters darkness and returns. Osiris is murdered, yet becomes lord of the dead. Isis restores continuity. Horus struggles for rightful rule. Set threatens order, but also reveals the dangerous forces that order must contain. Maat is never a finished achievement. It must be protected every day, in heaven, on earth, in the temple, in the kingdom, and in the soul of the deceased. That is why these myths still feel alive. Beneath their ancient symbols is a question every civilization faces: how does order survive when chaos is always waiting? If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.